Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our power practice and contemplation. Hope everybody's very well. We're going to continue our contemplation on change of heart. Then some people requested for some more teachings on the using the mala and reading mantra. So let's see, next week we'll be in Florianopolis, but the week after that we'll be back, and I'll try to give some more explanations on mantra recitation and using the mala. So the next question in the chapter on equanimity comes from somebody, a fictitious person named Sarah. And she says, so does the Bodhisattva Peace Training affect us only on the level of relative truth and have no effect in terms of absolute truth? And Rinpoche responded, if you were inside a building and wanted to get outside, you would have to go through a process to get there. Right now, it doesn't seem that you're enlightened. So you need to go through a process to become enlightened. In one way, this example doesn't work because once you get outside, you will realize it isn't any different there than inside. Ignorance, attachment, and aversion create an artificial barrier, the fictitious experience of separation from our true nature. As we apply the methods of the Bodhisattva Peace Training, those obscurations dissolve and the absolute truth gradually becomes apparent. The methods of this training have a twofold purpose: to make us more effective in our efforts to help others, as well as to lead us to enlightenment. The same practice that enhances our ability to benefit will also bring about our awakening. Developing a view of the equalness of all beings requires repeated contemplation. It is not something that happens on the surface of the mind. We can have a nice theory of equality, but that will not necessarily alter the way we actually relate to other people. It may be helpful to start by visualizing one person against whom you have some bias, and say to yourself, this person, just like me, wants to be happy, doesn't want to suffer, yet, out of ignorance, is working at cross purposes to that very goal. The actions you've judged so harshly result from misguided efforts to find fulfillment or to end their suffering. How many times have we done the same thing? Now expand the visualization to include everyone who behaves like that person. Remember that, like you, they all want to find happiness and avoid suffering. Unaware of what actually creates happiness and suffering, they continue to sow more seeds of future suffering. Finally, expand the scope of your meditation until it includes all beings. A method for contemplating great equanimity. Think of someone you dislike or are critical of. Contemplate the fact that although you can't perceive it, that person's true nature is a state of pristine purity. Your criticism is based on your ignorance of that nature. Remind yourself that the true nature of everyone who is like that person is pristine purity. Then contemplate that this is the nature of all beings. Contemplation on all sentient beings as your mothers. Imagine that all beings have been your parents many times over. Even if you don't believe that is possible, practice this meditation as if it were true. Picture an enemy. We can all recall at least one or two people we feel have made us or others unhappy. And practice thinking of that person as having once been your own loving, kind mother. Consider that this being who has been so kind to you, whose nature is completely pure, is planting seeds of suffering instead of happiness through lack of recognition of that nature. How can you help? How can you repay such kindness? Expand this meditation by degrees to encompass an ever greater number of beings. Then make the aspiration to repay their kindness. Eventually, you will be able to see all beings as having been your mother. I think in the West, we have a little bit more difficulty with this contemplation of seeing all beings as our mother than perhaps they do in the East. For a number of reasons, cultural reasons and psychological reasons. Maybe in the West, we don't, maybe we've lost a little bit the respect for our mothers and fathers that maybe they've maintained more strongly in Eastern cultures. And maybe because of that, our relationships with our mothers are a little more complicated, sometimes convoluted. So we have to make an effort on this contemplation. And one of the ways to make an effort is, even if your relationship with your mother is difficult, or maybe even you have no more relationship with your mother, maybe you don't speak, you should try to go back and just think of how many simple day-to-day activities that you perform that actually it was your mother who taught you how to do. Tying your shoe, cleaning yourself after you go to the bathroom, knowing how to make a cup of coffee, knowing how to use a spoon or a fork. I mean, speaking, reading, so many things that our mothers have taught us to do, and also our fathers, but even more specifically our mothers. If we really, really look closely, the basic fundamentals of survival, it was our mothers who taught us. And without that, as a defenseless baby or a defenseless infant or child, we wouldn't last a few days. We would be killed, kidnapped, go hungry, walk out in front of the cars in the middle of the street. We wouldn't last long at all. And it was because of our mother protecting us and looking after us and taking care of us that we are who we are today, even if we came with a few psychological struggles because of some confusion, some perceived confusion in our mother's psychology. But our mothers have sacrificed themselves so much to get us to this point. And a lot of the non-virtue that our mothers have accumulated was in order to provide for us. So in one way, they've sowed the seeds for lower rebirth so that we could have a dignified, decent life with comforts and food and medicine and all the cares and necessities that we require. So we need to think like that over and over and over again and go deeply into it and observe our daily behaviors and observe our daily activities and just see how much our mothers have helped us, so that at least we can repair this relationship with our mother in this lifetime. And from that point on, we can start to expand the contemplation to see that all mothers love their children in this way, even animals, very much so animals, even insects to a certain extent. They protect their children, they protect their offspring ferociously, oftentimes sacrificing their own lives. So we can see this energy of the mother's love permeating all of our world and all of our ecosystem. And it's a very, very powerful force. So as Buddhists, we try to tap into that, to use that as an opportunity to develop compassion. Because everybody, at the minimum, has a mother. And that mother loves those beings to the utmost of their capacity. So we try to focus on that aspect